What happened when you had your stroke? What were your symptoms?
Hi, my name is Craig DeRoche, and on April 2nd, 2019, I suffered a massive stroke. It was a right brain stroke. I was driving at the time, and I was in front of the VA in Gulfport on Highway 90 when I started to get very drowsy. And after 3 or 4 nodding offs, I found myself really aware that I was falling asleep. Then I remembered that I had read an article about stroke symptoms maybe a couple weeks before that. And some of the symptoms were drowsiness, drooling, and the inability to move an arm or a limb or something like that. Well, about that time, I realized that I started to drool a lot, and I tried to get air into the cab of the truck that I was driving to try to wake myself up, but I kept dozing off, and I drifted into the left wall, the dividing wall on Highway 90, and I struck it. That made me come to a little bit, and then I realized I had to stop because I thought I hit something. Well, as soon as I stopped, I tried to roll the window down with my left hand, and I could not pick it up. I couldn't, my dexterity to point or to push the button, I was unable to do that. So I had to do it with my right hand. And because I'm an investigator, I had emergency lights on my vehicle, so I turned the vehicle lights on, the emergency lights on, and in a matter of, seconds, I'm sure, or minutes, but it seemed like seconds, the police were there. And they were trying to ask me if I was okay. I do remember that. And I told them I was just sleepy. I was just tired. And I heard one of the police officers say, "I think he's a stroke victim." And they tried to extract me from the vehicle. Well, I was not too cooperative at first. And an ambulance got there. And they were able to get me out of the vehicle. I was able to crawl out of the vehicle by that time. I didn't have pain. I didn't have, a sudden headache. I did not have that then. And I knew that a migraine was part of the symptoms of having a stroke, according to the information that I read. Well, as soon as I got out of the vehicle, they had an ambulance there waiting for me and a gurney. So I laid down on the gurney and they put me in the back of the ambulance, and the migraine at that point struck. And it was, I don't ever recall having a headache that bad. And I could tell something was wrong, but I knew that these were the stroke symptoms. I remembered that part. So that's how I got into the ambulance anyway, but those are the symptoms that I had, the drooling. I assume that when they recognized that maybe my face was drooping, that I was potentially a stroke victim, and that's probably why someone said it. One of the police officers said it. So those are the symptoms that I had, but that headache. And the EMT told me, he says, "Hang on a minute, I have to call the doctor to see what I can give you for that. But just hang on." And they tried to keep me conscious, and talking. And I knew I had to call my wife. Well, you know how that goes. I'm sure some of you better call somebody. But so the next thing I knew, I was in the emergency bay of the hospital. I must have passed out, or they gave me something, and the pain had eased a little bit. but then I woke up in the emergency bay. And as an investigator at, with the city of Long Beach, I've been to that hospital, to Memorial, many times investigating crimes and injuries and cases, and it was just a surreal experience to experience the door of the ambulance opening and me looking out, as opposed to looking in usually to the patient coming out. But it was that type of experience, and that was really the only pain that I had was the migraine headache, at that time anyway.